PokeRogue is a browser-based roguelike Pokemon fan game in which you battle through 200 floors of Pokemon trainers and secret third things, culminating with the final battle against Eternamax Eternus at the 200th floor. So why not try to beat this 200 floor gauntlet, known for being far harder than any mainline Pokemon game, with the 5th weakest fully evolved Pokemon, Spinda. Now, initially, this challenge seems near impossible. However, PokeRogue's unique mechanics, being egg moves and passive abilities, give Spinda a far better chance than one may initially expect. Egg moves are the moves that Pokemon do not normally have access to that are obtained via hatching the given Pokemon from an egg. Spinda has access to V-Create, Flare Cannon, and Superpower as egg moves. While these moves are incredibly powerful, their true use is only revealed when you look at Spinda's hidden and passive abilities, being Contrary and Simple respectively. Contrary inverts any stat changes the user receives, so Swords Dance would have the user's attack and Charm would double it. Contrary not only nullifies the drawbacks of Spinda's egg moves, but turns them into incredible benefits. Passive abilities are secondary abilities that can be utilized at the same time as the user's regular ability. Spinda's passive ability is Simple, doubling all of the user's stat changes, meaning Spinda can, in a single turn, double its attack and defense with Superpower, double its speed and defenses with V-Create, or triple its special attack with Flare Cannon. What makes Spinda's ability to massively increase its stats even more useful is that in PokeRogue, battle effects such as stat boosts or field conditions persist between wild encounters, making it so that once Spinda uses V-Create, it will have double the defenses and speed until the next trainer battle or biome. While the stat changes Spinda can get are impressive, the 360 base stat total Pokemon is incredibly vulnerable to getting outsped in one shot, especially by powerful fighting type moves such as Close Combat or Focus Blast, so avoiding these moves is going to be essential to completing this challenge. With that out of the way, let's get into the first run. In my first run, I decided to use a physical attacking set with an item in nature and the moves Superpower, V-Create, a normal stab option, and Slack Off, Spinda's fourth and substantially less notable egg. The first run starts off relatively well, as within the first 10 waves I get 2 PP ups and a protein. The PP ups are especially useful as Spinda's two best moves, being V-Create and Superpower, both have an incredibly low amount of power points, at a mere 5, so getting 2 power point boosts this early will make the rest of the run far easier. Vitamins like the protein are also useful as they substantially boost Spinda's stats, which is especially helpful as for most of the game, Spinda will be at a severe disadvantage in that department. After getting the several essential items mentioned earlier, I clear through both the Wave 8 rival battle and the Wave 10 boss Wurmple, allowing me to move on to the plains and learn Dizzy Punch in the process. In the plains, I get an HP up and a Citrus Berry before defeating the boss Zigzagoon and entering the lake. In the lake, I encounter an unusually powerful Oricorio whom Spinda is easily able to take care of, as it is immune to Revelation Dance due to its normal typing. Following my encounter with the Oricorio, I once again battle Ivy, who gives me about as much trouble as she did the first time around. However, this time I learned Body Slam mid-battle. Body Slam is one of Spinda's best stab options due to its relatively high base power at 85 and its incredibly high paralysis chance. This will most likely be the last move Spinda learns this run unless a particularly interesting opportunity presents itself, as all stronger physical normal options have severe drawbacks. After the second Ivy battle, I obtained the Golden Punch, a uniquely useful item that grants the holder 50% of the damage they deal as money. I later gain a map, allowing me to choose the path I take at any given crossroads, along with an additional protein. After far too much happens within a 10-wave time span, I defeat Crusher Wake and move on to the beach. In the beach, I almost immediately obtain one of the best items in the game, the Leftovers. Leftovers grant you the ability to recover 6.25% of your maximum HP at the end of each turn. While 6.25 doesn't seem like much, the passive healing builds up very quickly, allowing for greatly increased survivability and reduced potion spending. After obtaining the Leftovers, I encounter a Team Galactic one, whom I easily defeat because they were using Beautifly and Glameow. Genuinely, why are you, as a member of one of the largest criminal organizations in the world, fighting people using an insect and your pet cat? How did you expect any of this to go even remotely well? Anyway, after demolishing the Team Galactic Grunt's aspirations, I obtain a Zinc and defeat the boss level, after which I enter the sea. Nothing much happens in the sea. I enter, steal some berries from a Slowbro, defeat the boss Pelipper, and leave. Upon leaving the sea, I enter the seabed biome where I once again encounter Ivy. This time around, Ivy nearly takes me out with a drum beating from her Rillaboom, however the speed boost I obtained from drum beating speed reduction allowed me to defeat her Rillaboom and the rest of Ivy's team soon after. Upon Ivy's defeat, I obtained the Quick Claw, granting me a 10% chance to move first on any given turn, not taking priority moves into account. While this item generally isn't useful, it can come in clutch on occasion and is still far better than nothing. Upon reaching the final wave of the seabed, I defeat Interleader Drawn and move on to the cave. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I don't want to pause mid-script to, like, pull up Google Translate or something and, like, check. So I'm just gonna trust, because I'm too tired for this. After entering the cave, I am badly poisoned by a Golbat. This seemingly innocuous event managed to somehow end the entire run. The badly poisoned or toxic status condition differs from regular poison as it deals more damage over time. Starting at a mere 6.25% damage per turn, the toxic damage goes up by the same amount every turn, eventually dealing so much damage that it is literally impossible to out-heal. Knowing this, I foolishly move on to the Wave 62 Team Galactic Grunt battle and promptly lose, as the toxic damage overwhelms me. Moral of the story, heal your status conditions, you insolent fool. The second run goes about as well as the first, as it is sadly cut short by a freeze from an opposing Magneton's tri-attack at Wave 53. You know, I wonder if losing the status conditions is going to be a common theme here. Now, the third one is where things get interesting. Early on, I managed to get several incredible items, like the map, Golden Punch, Soul Dew, and Candy Jar. The Soul Dew boosts the effect of the user's nature by 10%, additively, so my Adamant nature now increases my Spinda's attack by 20% and reduces its special attack by 20%. The Candy Jar, however, is far more powerful, as it increases the amount of levels a rare candy gives by 1. While this effect seems relatively innocuous at first, getting multiple candy jars can allow you to far exceed the level of opposing Pokemon, as seen in this previous attempt at the solo Spinda challenge, where I managed to obtain level 312 Spinda using just 6 candy jars. I still lost due to running out of PP against Eternatus though, which is why I stopped trying to use mixed attacking sets with Superpower and Flare Cannon. Now, most people understand that a higher level Pokemon has higher stats, as when not taking Nature's EVs, IVs, or items into account, a Pokemon's base stats are equivalent to their base stat times 2 times their level divided by 100 plus 5, or in the case of HP plus 10 and plus their level. So a level 100 Spinda with no EVs, IVs, and a neutral nature would have 125 in every stat besides HP, which would be 230. What most people don't know is that your level is directly involved in Pokemon's damage formula. The attacking Pokemon's level is used in the segment of the damage calculation where, after being divided by 5 and increased by 2, it is multiplied by the move's base power and the assailant's attack to target's defense ratio, meaning that your damage output is directly proportional to your level, as shown in this graph. Point being, having a higher level massively increases your damage output due to how it both increases your stats and directly interacts with the damage formula. Due to the immense amount of powerful items I obtained in this run, I am able to easily clear through all of the major battles with relative ease, all up until the seemingly innocuous tall grass biome. In the tall grass biome, I am greeted by the GTS special encounter. The GTS special encounter allows you to trade away held items or Pokemon in exchange for similar objects of greater value. In the case of held items, the one you receive will always be one tier higher than the item you send away. I decide to risk my Soul Dew in an attempt to gain the Master Ball tier Multi-Lens, which I luckily get. The Multi-Lens is by far the best item in this challenge, as it mimics the effects of the Parental Bond ability, granting the user an additional 75% weaker hit on all of their attacks. This item is uniquely useful for Spinda, as it allows you to effectively double all of the stat boost Spinda gets from attacking, making it far easier to get the stat boost Spinda needs to overcome its meager base stats. Now that Spinda has so many incredible items, the rest of the game should be a breeze. So, for the uninitiated, Parasong is a move that causes all Pokemon on the field to faint within 3 turns of its usage. Normally this move isn't a major threat, as you can just switch out to prevent your Pokemon from fainting. However, in a solo run like this, Parasong is effectively a death sentence. So, as Spinda's perish count hit 0, our best run is sadly cut short at wave 134. The fourth one is about as standard as you get. I get a couple type boosting items, some vitamins, and a handful of useful berries. However, I sadly lose to the Wave 55 rival battle, as I foolishly spent all of my remaining money on a reroll that got me exactly 1 extra level, preventing me from buying any potions. Definitely worth it, guys, to trust. You know, for these last few runs, there's always been something I could have done to prevent myself from losing, like healing my status conditions as fast as possible, prioritizing the status curing Lumberry and item drops, or just taking out Pokemon that can learn Parasong by level up as soon as possible. But this time around, I just get demolished by a Wild Zip Striker that gets a free Omni Boost and an extra turn on me. Like, genuinely, what was I supposed to do about it? The 6th run goes far smoother, as I managed to get 2 money-boosting amulet coins, several vitamins, 2 charcoals, and 2 candy jars, along with the move Return, a physical normal type attack that deals more damage the higher the user's friendship stat is, maxing out at an incredibly impressive 102 base power. My wealth of items allows me to easily clear through every major encounter, right up until the Archie battle at wave 115. The battle begins with Spinda using V-Create to take out the opposing Lionode, bolstering its speed and defenses in the process. Archie then sends out his Tentacle, which badly poisons Spinda via Malignant Chain, as I set up with Superpower. Thankfully, I prepared a Lumberry for this exact occasion, allowing me to defeat the opposing Tentacle with minimal damage. In an attempt to recuperate the damage I did take from Archie's previous Pokemon, I used Slack Off, as in the opposing Alolan Muck poisons me via Barb Barrage. Thankfully, Barb Barrage only inflicts regular poison, so I'm able to easily recover the minimal damage I do take while taking out the rest of Archie's team. Upon Archie's defeat, I obtained the King's Rock, an item that adds a 10% chance to flinch the target to all of the user's moves. I don't think this item actually changed the outcome of any of the following battles, but it's still worth mentioning. Probably, maybe, I'm not actually sure, but it would be weird if I didn't, right? Anyway, after obtaining the King's Rock, I am able to easily clear through every biome up until the temple at wave 140. In the temple, I am greeted by PokeRogue, a Pokemon that possesses Spinda's greatest weakness, the ability Mummy. Mummy, and its stinkier clone, Lingering Aroma, replace the opponent's ability with itself upon contact with the user. This is especially dangerous for my current Spinda set, as it only has access to contact moves, meaning that it is forced to have its contrary replaced with Mummy. I somehow managed to defeat the PokeRogue, however Spinda is left burnt, with its defenses reduced to that of wet tissue paper. Completely defenseless against the opposing Aegislash, Spinda's best run yet is cut short at wave 143. Before the second run begins, I decided to change Spinda to a modest nature, as I intend to use a special attacking set this time around. While the reason I decided to make this change was largely as a method of dealing with Mummy, there are plenty of other benefits to a special attacking Spinda. Special attacking Spinda sets can increase their offensive power at a substantially higher rate. As with Simply and Contrary, Flare Cannon increases Spinda's special attack by 4 stages instead of Superpower's mere 2. These Spinda sets also have a substantially better matchup into many of the game's bosses, as Flare Cannon can take out Ivy's Rayquaza, and Psychic, if you get the TM, can deal with Eternatus. The 7th run starts off alright until the first Ivy battle begins, as Ivy possesses a Torchic. Torchic will eventually evolve into the firefighting type Blaziken, who is far faster than Spinda and can threaten to take them out with a single hit with nearly any fighting type move. However, at this point, Torchic poses nearly no threat to the run, so we are able to clear through the rest of the town and move on to the plains. In the plains, I obtain a Wide Lens, an item that boosts the accuracy of all of the holder's moves by 5%. The Wide Lens is especially useful on special attacking Spinda, as Flare Cannon has a mere 90% accuracy. While 90% accuracy isn't bad enough to make it completely unreliable, it's still in that range where you might want to have a backup plan for the move not connecting, so the additional accuracy is greatly appreciated. Nothing else particularly noteworthy happens until the Wave 55 Ivy battle, where the now fully evolved Blaziken one-shot Spinda with a devastating Brick Break, ending our 7th run in an instant. The 8th run was off to an excellent start, as I obtained several incredibly useful items like the Amulet Coin, Map, various vitamins, and Berry Pouch. The Berry Pouch grants a 30% chance to not consume a berry upon usage, greatly increasing Spinda's longevity through the use of healing berries such as Citrus or Enigma. I also obtained the move Psychic later on in the run, as it is Spinda's best option against Eternatus by far. The combination of excellent moves and items I was able to obtain relatively early on in the run allowed me to decimate nearly every obstacle that came our way, all up until the Team Star Boss Airy battle at wave 114. I led off against Airy by selecting V-Create, as it would most likely one-shot the opposing Lucario and grant me further survivability against Airy's other fighting type threats. However, none of that matters because Lucario outspeeds and one-shots Spinda with close combat. Are you starting to notice a pattern yet? So now that we've made it roughly halfway through the video, I would like you to subscribe, as at this point you've probably determined whether or not you like my videos. I'm aiming to get monetized by June, which requires 500 subscribers, so it would be greatly appreciated if you were to do so. However, if you do not like my content, do not feel obliged to subscribe. Anyway, the 9th run starts off really well, is what I would say if I was a liar. The run is almost immediately ended by a Plusle and Minun sparking my Spinda to an early wave. My ego shall most definitely never recover from this incident. Thankfully, the 10th run goes far better, as in the first 24 waves I get plenty of useful items like a Carbos, Zinc, Map, Candy Jar, and a Golden Punch. The wealth of powerful items I obtained early on allowed me to blast my way through nearly every encounter, all the way up until the evil team encounters from wave 112 to 115. Upon defeating Admin Matt at wave 114, I am presented with the Max Elixir, which I do not take, as surely I will not have run out of power points after a mere 2 battles. Anyway, 2 Flare Cannons, 2 Psychics, and 6 Weak Creates are nowhere near enough to defeat Archie, so our 10th run is cut short at wave 115. Now, attempt 11 is interesting, because I forgot to start recording until wave 61 like an imbecile. However, in these 61 waves, I managed to get an Amulet Coin, several vitamins, a Quick Claw, leftovers, and a Scope Lens, an item that boosts the holder's crit ratio by 1, increasing crits to a 1 in 8 chance. These items allow me to blow past nearly every wave until the wave 80 gym battle, which Spinda goes into a sleep because this fool forgot to use a full heal before a major battle, and now he has to fight a Pokemon that vastly outstats Spinda without being able to move. I thankfully wake up after a single turn and decide to use V-Create to boost my stats in spite of Armarouge's Flash Fire ability, because it could still have weak armor, so it's still worth trying. On my second attempt, I lead with a combination of Flare Cannon and Slack Off, allowing me to force Armarouge out as Camerupt switches in. The Fire Ground type's lack of Flash Fire makes it far easier to set up on, so I am able to clear through the rest of Chili's team from there. Anyway, on my third attempt, I make sure to have a more appropriate amount of HP before Semi-Surge switches in. However, that doesn't matter as I land a critical hit on the ape, and am able to finally clear through the rest of Chili's team from there. Nothing much happens until I learn Revelation Dance from an opposing Oricorio, which is a much needed power boost from the aggressively underwhelming Psybeam. Boost in power from Revelation Dance allows me to, you know the drill at this point. I get a bunch of great items early on, I decimate everything in my path, and I get my left kidney removed by the evil team encounters from wave 112 to 115. It wasn't even the boss or the admin this time, just a random grunt. Also, don't question why my Spinda is part fairy type, it'll come up later, I promise. Upon entering battle with the Team Aqua grunt, I am immediately badly poisoned by the opposing Gengar's Malignant Chain. Now that shouldn't have been a problem, as I had 2 Lumberries a mere 5 waves ago. However, both were removed by an opposing Pokemon's Toxic in the Forest biome, meaning the 11th attempt is slightly cut short at wave 112. Anyway, attempt 12. We love attempt 12, it's great, nothing would ever go wrong in attempt 12. So the first few biomes go about as expected. I get several useful vitamins, the map, and a wide lens. However, right before the wave 35 grunt encounter, I get access to one of Spinda's best special attacking options, Hyper Voice. Hyper Voice is a 90 base power normal type move that hits all opposing Pokemon. This is an especially useful option for Spinda, as Spinda struggles against most double battles due to a lack of teammates, so Hyper Voice can help make up for the missing Pokemon. However, our time with Hyper Voice is short-lived, as after I defeat Gardenia in a special encounter at wave 38, I am rewarded with a TM for Psychic, after which I defeat the boss Lokix and move on to the forest. Nothing particularly noteworthy happened in the forest, however in its following biome, the meadow, I gain the Soul Dew, allowing me to clear through nearly every wave with ease up until I return to the plains biome. Upon arriving in the plains, I'm greeted by the best possible mystery encounter, a giant pile of garbage. Trash to Treasure is an Ultra Ball tier mystery encounter in which you get to either investigate the definitely not a Gigantamax Garbodor, or dive into it to obtain immortality. The immortality in question being 2 Shell Bells and 2 leftovers. Now the passive healing from the 2 leftovers is useful, but what's especially powerful about this encounter are the 2 Shell Bells, which when combined allow all of the holders' moves to heal 25% of the damage they deal. This is especially useful for Spinda, as due to its low HP, meaning 25% of the target's HP will heal Spinda for far more than 25% per KO. Sadly, immortality comes at a cost, as choosing to search for items in the definitely not a Gigantamax Garbodor causes the cost of all shop items to be 2.5 times higher. However, this doesn't really matter, as the amount of healing you get from the Shell Bells and leftovers effectively makes it so you never need to pay for potions. The additional healing allows Spinda to clear through all of the following Team Rocket encounters, allowing me to move on to the grassy field. In the grassy field, I attempt to defeat a wild Greedent after it stole all my berries. However, its defense boosts in combination with Body Press, a fighting type move that uses defense in the damage calculation instead of attack, are far too much for Spinda to handle. So I give up my berries and move on to the tall grass. Also, Erica was there, but she was easier to deal with than the overweight squirrel. Anyway, the next few biomes are pretty unremarkable. I defeat Ivy for the 2 to the 32nd -1th time, get a Quick Claw and a few vitamins, the usual. However, upon entering the plains biome where the rest of Team Rocket lies, Spinda easily destroys them as well. If you haven't noticed, the Spinda build is essentially an unkillable monster. Spinda, with all stat modifiers taken into account, being vitamins and the usual stat boosts of +4 special attack, +2 defense, special defense, and speed, has an effective base stat total of 851. You know, suddenly Eternatus didn't seem too far off. Anyway, using our incredibly fair and balanced unkillable Spinda, we are able to easily pass every wave right up until wave 120, where I get the best item in the game by far, the multi-lens. Now, it's been a while, at least for me writing the script, and also me reading it, because it feels like an eternity, please send help, since we got the multi-lens in a run. So as a reminder, the multi-lens grants an additional 75% weaker hit to every attacking move Spinda uses, meaning that all the boosts Spinda gets are essentially doubled. The additional boosts from the multi-lens make it even easier to reach the biggest difficulty spike in the game, the 5th Ivy battle. But right before the 5th Ivy encounter, I thankfully obtained a Reviver Seed. The Reviver Seed allows the user to recover 50% of their HP upon being knocked out. However, at this point we probably won't need it due to how powerful Spinda has become. Now, Ivy is the first trainer in the entire game to possess boss Pokemon, most notably her starter, in this case Primarina, and her renowned rare shiny Rayquaza, known for ending runs in an instant. Anyway, so you know how my Spinda turned part fairy back during attempt 11? Well, that is the fault of this clown encounter, in which you have to choose between a double battle between a randomly typed Blacephalon, getting your items rearranged, and getting a new random type. Now, a Spinda with no boost probably wouldn't do well against one of the hardest hitting Pokemon in the game, and our current items are far too essential a risk, so I reluctantly choose to gain a random new type and get the literal best outcome possible. Spinda's additional Psychic typing is an incredible benefit as it increases the power of Spinda's Psychic by the same type attack bonus. After creating the ultimate life form, I once again encounter Giovanni, who almost manages to do significant damage to me with a Stone Edge from Tyranitar. However, I am able to get a V-Create off afterwards, and you know how the story goes from there. Upon defeating Giovanni, I gain a Grip Claw, an item that grants the holder a 10% chance to steal an opposing Pokemon's item upon contact. Now, while most wild Pokemon lack items, stronger trainers like the Gym Leaders and the Elite Four often have type boosting items in various berries. Upon Giovanni's defeat, I am able to take out the Gym Leader Silent and enter the final phase of the run. Waves 182 through 190 are unique compared to the rest of the game, as during these waves you encounter 4 Elite Four members and a champion from any possible region, ranging anywhere from Kanto to the Blueberry Academy. These trainers are some of the toughest in the game, as they possess Pokemon equipped with several vitamins and berries, further increasing the gap in stats between them and Spinda. Our first Elite Four member, Molayne, leads with Earthworm, which due to its low offensive stats is very easy for Spinda to set up on, allowing me to clear through Molayne's team with a couple of Psychics and Flare Cannons. Olivia, the second Elite Four member, leads with a devastating super effective Mega Horn from Dreadnought. However, Spinda's abundance of healing items and V-Create defense boosts allow Spinda to easily recover from the attack and take out Olivia's team with Psychic. Acerola's Ghost types pose a substantially smaller threat than the first 2 Elite Four members did, as their primary method of attack is nullified by Spinda's normal typing, so I'm able to wipe out Acerola without even using V-Create. Our final Elite Four member, Kahili, makes the excellent decision to use Sky Attack on her first move on Unfezant, giving Spinda ample time to set up with V-Create and Flare Cannon, allowing Spinda to dispose of Kahili's team with ease. Lastly, we have our champion Hao, who goes down the exact same way the rest of the Elite Four did. He leads with the Alolan Raichu, however he immediately switches to Incineroar in an attempt to gain the advantage against my Psychic-type Spinda. However, all that ultimately accomplished is granting my Spinda a free turn to set up with V-Create, allowing me to clear through Hao's team from there. Upon defeating Hao, I enter the End Biome, the final section of PokeRogue. The End Biome is primarily inhabited by comically underleveled Paradox Pokemon, the Horrors, and Ivy. I wonder how that last Ivy fight went anyway. After doing Ivy's entire team, I finally, after 12 attempts and a frankly egregious number of waves, reached the final battle against Eternatus. Eternatus leads with a devastating Eternabeam, which immediately knocks Spinda out. You see, ultimately, Spinda's base stats are far too low to beat the entire game with, as in spite of all the boosts it can get, it is ultimately too frail and too slow to handle all the fast and powerful Pokemon that PokeRogue contains. Is what I would have said if we didn't get a Reviver Seed way back at wave 143. Upon the activation of the Reviver Seed, Spinda managed to get off a multi-lens boosted V-Create, allowing the real final battle to begin. Thankfully, Eternatus' Eterna Beam requires a recharge turn upon usage, so I'm able to get a second V-Create off, allowing Spinda to reach the maximum possible speed and defenses. The increased speed allows Spinda to immediately follow up with a Flare Cannon, maxing out Spinda's stats in the process. Eternatus then tickles Spinda with Flamethrower, as Spinda uses an absolutely devastating +6 special attack Modest Stab 2 Calcium super effective Psychic, an attack that would absolutely atomize any average Pokemon. But as you can tell by its everything, Eternatus isn't exactly average, so this reality warping attack merely sends Eternatus into its second phase. When Eternatus reaches its Eternamax form, it gains access to a few new moves, the most concerning of which being Cross Poison, as Cross Poison has a substantially increased critical hit rate. Critical hits, among many other things, completely ignore stat boosts, so Spinda's one advantage, the one thing protecting it from being utterly destroyed, can be entirely ripped away by that 1 in 8 chance. However, I am thankfully able to take out Eternatus using Psychic before it lands a critical hit, as I finally beat PokeRogue using only Spinda. If I'm being honest, I 100% won this run due to luck, mostly being the combination of the Trash or Treasure encounter and the multi-lens. If I hadn't gotten either, I would have 100% lost to Eternatus. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you were to like, subscribe, and enable notifications, and if you didn't, please leave a comment explaining what I could do better next time. With that out of the way, thank you, and goodbye.